Yo, welcome everybody. Scorch the Fears podcast number 5. We got my boy Anthony here. Anthony is a buyer of mine. We're actually literally in one of the houses that I wholesale to him. He's an excellent guy. I really like him. He invited me to his Christmas party, which was pretty cool of him. Pretty sick in general, my man. Thanks for being here.
I appreciate you having us on, or having me on personally. For sure.
So tell me, how'd you get into real estate?
I've always gotten into real estate ever since I was a kid. My dad was in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad had a real estate investment company. He had a real estate construction company. He flipped houses.
Mm-hmm.
He used to do We Buy Houses on the side of the road.
Love it.
With those signs everywhere.
Love it.
So that's how I got into real estate. He kind of gave me the drive from the beginning, gave me he gave me the insight of being in real estate that it's not going to happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
But if you keep working at it, then over time, it would actually unfold to something way bigger than you would ever expect.
Nice. What did your dad do in real estate?
He bought a bunch of places. This is back during like the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So he used to put up We Buy House signs. He used to go to seminars. But he used to this is before like Zillow and all these estimates, Trillia, Redfin. They would give you all the estimates back then. You could buy a house for $100, paint it, and then list it on the market for
in the Bay Area.
Yeah, in the Bay Area.
That's crazy. That's awesome. Okay, cool. So you learned it from him, and then tell me more about your story. What you do? How'd you get into it?
Got into it when I was in college.
Nice.
So I didn't know what I wanted to do. I mean, I was like 18, 19, confused.
Right.
Used to always get confused of what I actually wanted to do with my life.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, it's just probably one of the tough times of my life.
Yeah, you want us to move that because that's also a little bit of an echo and it's distracting. Here. Yeah. You care if I move it over there?
Yeah.
All right. We're going to be right back. Hold on. Dealing with technical issues.
Let's see, get this figured out.
That one's good.
Okay, so
we're good on that one.
Okay.
You're solid.
So I think on this one, probably have it right here.
That works too, actually.
It feels like we're both.
All right. We got our technical difficulties sorted out. Okay. So 100% got into real estate with your dad. And then you started as a realtor, right?
So I never really did real estate with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 19, I was in college and I needed some side money.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to knock on doors 8 hours, probably 8 hours every other day, and set appointments for a solar company.
That's pretty dope.
So, I was pretty good at it. I always loved being in sales, but when, the only time I couldn't really set anybody with the appointment with the solar, they used to tell me, "Oh, sorry, I'm selling my house." And I'm like, "Huh, make a few $100 doing this when I could just do the same thing and sell people's houses."
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I got my license, and then shortly after that.
When was that?
2010.
2010. Okay.
Yeah, I got my real estate license, and that's when I met my boss, and we've been working together since.
Nice.
To this day.
Cool. And then you became a realtor, and then how'd you get into the investing side?
I got on the investing side because I was sick of working for people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I was sick of working and helping, because at the beginning of my career was a tough time.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 2010. The market was at an all-time low. People weren't they were very hesitant on buying houses, even though looking back, that was the best time to buy a house.
Right.
Interest rates were low back then. And also what was low was the prices. They were about a third, sometimes a quarter of what they're selling for right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, but at the same time, a lot of people, just a few years before that, a lot of people lost their houses.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people didn't have a lot of funds. And the loans were really tough to get back then too.
How was real estate different back then versus now? Because I found out about real estate literally 2 years ago, right? And I hear horror stories about 2008 all the time, like just from different people in general. But
Well,
I'm
back
curious how it was different back then.
the tough thing back then is you're buying a house from the bank,
Right.
and usually these houses are all through the bank. If someone lost their house, then they're probably pulling out the lights, they're probably pulling out the appliances. You got, you know, people that are on drugs that go in and steal all the pipes. So back then, you're buying a house from a bank, and it's tough to get a house financed then. And also, you were dealing with a lot of short sales. And keep in mind, if you're in contract and the short sale as a buyer, it takes like 8 months for that deal to actually close.
Right. I didn't know that it takes 8 months for a short sale to close.
Sometimes
because the banks are just so like super annoyed they're losing money, basically.
It's a lengthy process for them. And back then, a lot of these houses had 2 loans on it, so you had to negotiate with 2 separate banks for them to keep in mind. So a short sale back then a short sale to begin with was, let's say you own a house and it's worth $1 million,
right?
But and you have a loan for $1 million, the market tanks and the house is only worth $500. Why are you going to pay a mortgage on a home that has $1 million note when it's only worth $500,000?
Right.
So people would raise their hand and they would say, "Hey, I'm going to short sell my house." They'd get a realtor, and then the realtor would find a buyer. From there, they would get the offer they take, send it to the bank, and then the bank would be the ones taking a huge loss.
Gotcha.
So,
okay. How was it without technology in general? Like, I'm curious because I mean, like, literally, Facebook came out in 2008, right? The iPhone, I don't know, probably was just getting started. So, like, I'm just curious if there was like, I mean, I guess you were a realtor, so I guess it wasn't crazy hard to comp in the sense of you had the MLS. But yeah. I'm curious, like, what do you think? How do you think it's different, or how was it different with all the tech we have now versus the tech that was available then?
I mean, there's a lot of good tech out there. I think it's frozen.
Just don't worry about that. This is the one I care about, honestly. If the Instagram Live is screwing up, then it is what it is. There's
a lot of good tech out there, but I think the tech right now honestly gets very convoluted. And it makes everything a lot more confusing, in my opinion, because there's so much out there that, what are you going to pick? What type of CRM are you going to pick? What type of, what are you going to trust when there's so much out there and everyone has their own opinion? The tech hasn't really changed, and I don't think it's changed that much. But honestly,
was there like Zillow?
Zillow
it was there back then, 2010?
Okay. Yeah, it was up back then.
Okay.
It was crazy because people would see their property and they would have a home loan on it for $700 and the property would only be worth $350. But back then, Zillow would only say their house would be worth $500, so that would be a big difference. Zillow wasn't even catching up to what was actually happening.
Right.
So right now, how fast the market has gone up, the market actually dropped faster than it did back in 2008.
Wait, sorry, you mean it's going up not as fast as it dropped in 2008? Exactly. Okay, yeah.
So just this year, values went up 20% or 17% in California. Back then, within a year, values on some properties went down like 60-70%.
Dang, that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine dealing with the real estate side back then when it was like 2008. Like, I have no idea what it was like. I mean, it was probably dope as a real estate investor. You weren't an investor yet, though.
A lot of people were. No, I wasn't an investor, but a lot of people lost their ass. Like, keep in mind, right now, let's say these property values go down, which I don't think so. It's a way different market than it was back then. But imagine the values go down. Like, okay, it'd be cool being a real estate investor, but if you're a real estate investor back then, you probably got bit so hard as well.
Was it because this is what I've heard is that variable interest rates, or like there were a lot more variable mortgages versus like fixed rate interest rate mortgage.
Mhm.
And that's what screwed a lot of people. That's what I heard, because it's like what really screwed the investors.
It was adjustable mortgages.
That's the word.
So yeah, it was adjustable mortgage. So right now, interest rate, you're getting locked in at like 3%, 2.8%, 3.25%, which is kind of getting
crazy.
Normal, but it's like that's so low. Back then, the mortgage, your interest rate would be like 6%, and then it would jump to like 9 and then 12.
Yeah.
So your payment would just go from $4,000 to $7,000.
Right.
And then the value just went down.
Yeah. So everyone's like, nope, I don't want this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty crazy. Cool. So, okay. So you started investing pretty recently, right? Only the past couple of years?
Yeah, past
2 years.
So
like past 2 years. Mm-hmm. So tell me what made you switch from just being a realtor and then into the actual investing side.
Okay. So it kind of just fell in my lap, being in the investing side. So I started off as a real estate agent, servicing buyers, and then slowly realized that if I work with sellers, then I can control my schedule and plan everything out a lot better and have systems in place to make it work. So I started going after sellers. And then what I realized is these people that are selling these houses, they're real equity rich and cash poor.
Right.
And some of these houses, they're cluttered. The paint is all like dark colors. The floors are all old, stains in the carpet. They're not like marketable. It's not something. So I would tell them like, look, I can help you fix it, but the goal is if you fix it, then we're going to get you a higher price.
Right.
So that was a service that I would offer sellers when they would hire me to list their house. So I started working with sellers to prep their houses to get on the market, make them look all nice and stage them. So I built up a resource of painters, landscapers, handymen, and do bathrooms and kitchens and flooring, everything you name it. And I would spend months to rehab some of these sellers' houses,
right?
Get them way more than what they expected. And then half of them, keep in mind, I met a lot of good people in real estate, but a lot of people would move out of like the town and basically barely even say thank you. And some of them would be difficult to deal with, which I feel like, dang, I hooked that person up. No hard feelings. It's just part of the business.
Right.
So I built up this whole crew, and over time, I've seen deals just drop between the cracks. Even though we're in a hot market, there's deals that drop between the cracks. And I'm like, dang, I could have bought that and made $100,000. I could have bought that and made $150,000. So I was like, I have everything. I have the crew. I have, I know how to buy them. I know how to sell them. So it just came a point where it's just like, I would be foolish to not pursue
fix and flipping. Right.
And, the first couple weren't like, they were learning experiences for sure. I wouldn't change that. But, just this year, it actually worked out pretty well on a few of them. So
nice. It's dope, man. I'm still debating whether I want to get into fix and flipping. I'm like debating it just because I don't have those crews, but I'm curious. So how did you find the people that ended up being in your crews and do your rehabs?
So it's just like been hiring people, word of mouth from other people, other realtors, neighbors. Reached out to a lot of people, but my main guy, he's a Honduran, but I met him. I met him at Home Depot.
Nice.
And
classic.
I met him at Home Depot, and I hired him to build a fence for one of my clients / friends.
Mm-hmm.
And got him. He did a good job on the fence for a third of what anybody else was going to charge for the labor.
Nice.
And I was like, whoa, this guy's hungry. Let me give him a call on some other projects. So he painted one of my buildings. Him and his cousin and his brother painted one of my buildings. And then he just started asking for more work, and it just, it started working out.
Blossomed. Yeah.
Yeah. So now he's running 2 crews.
Nice.
But, I'm always looking to interviewing and hiring people.
Right, more contractors and stuff like that.
Yeah, because as long as I can find the amount of work, then
Right, it's worth
it's
it.
a win-win for everybody.
I feel it. That's interesting. I mean, like that's like the hard part that I've always heard. I'm curious what the challenges are in your opinion with fix and flipping. To me, the biggest one that I've heard usually is that you got to find a really good contractor. Other than like once you have a contractor that you can trust and you know is doing a good job, what's the next part? What's like the hardest part after that?
So with the fix and flip right now, I can tell you right now personally, it's getting a lot more expensive to fix these properties up. The labor is getting expensive, and the materials are going through the roof.
That's inflation.
Yeah, I mean inflation. I mean it's just a shortage of supply right now. But I mean it could consume you like crazy.
Right.
The first flip I ever did, I mean, it consumed 2 months of my life, and it took me away from making money doing other things.
Right.
So I mean, it is a trade-off of like you outsourcing things personally if you're doing a fix and flip, but also you got to find the balance of how much time you have involved to actually make this work for you. If you're going to manage some of it, you should always have some part of it, whether you have a crew and someone that's in charge of everybody, but still it's always smart to check up on these projects.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you have someone who was like kind of a project manager who was in charge of it, or were you literally like, okay, painter go there, flooring guy go here? Or...
the first one I did everything. I mean, and I've just coordinated everybody.
Right.
But it's tough when you're trying to coordinate the painters with the landscapers,
Right.
with the flooring guys, with the guys that are still in the kitchen. I mean, they're all stepping on each other's work.
Right.
The house is torn apart. Who's going to come back and do the touch-ups? Is the floor is going to go on first before the kitchen cabinets, or so many things, and then one person falls out of place and doesn't do their tasks, and it holds everything up.
Right.
So it's always good to have a crew just run everything from beginning to end and let them do the whole project versus multiple crews doing their thing as far as mixing the painters.
100%. No, I mean, it's just interesting to me. I mean, it definitely just seems like it's the same as just running any business in the sense of if you just have to have all the right people in the right places, which is kind of hard in and of itself in some ways. But yeah, it is interesting. I mean, I'm thinking about doing like I'm doing that one flip that you went and saw, the Castro Valley one, which I'll eventually show you.
I got a buyer for that too.
Yeah, I know. Like we gotta get that going. But all right, cool. So now I want to this is like, that was more like the intro part of the podcast where I just kind of get to know you a little bit more. I let the audience know you more. So now we're going to get into kind of like the point of this podcast, in my opinion. My vision for this podcast, as a lot of people who are watching this know, is getting over fears or figuring out how people who are doing things in this industry are getting over their fears of whatever it is or whatever has been holding them back, used to hold them back, still is holding them back, whatever it is. Because my personal belief is that it's always fear. I think it's almost always fear that holds somebody back from going into this business and doing it. Yeah. Right. And then I think there's fears that even like, at least I still have to this day. Like recently there was one that came to my mind, which was literally like, I had a fear of spending money in order to hire people. And I was like, because I was just like, oh, I don't really want to, like I've got so much money here. I don't really want to hire too many people. Who knows if I'll get another deal, and not having the confidence to be like, wait a minute, stop being stupid. It's time to hire people. Mm-hmm. That's just one example. But what I usually like starting with is like when you were starting off, what fears did you have, or how'd you get over any fears you had with starting?
When I started off, my biggest fear was people telling me no, and a
classic one.
Yeah, I mean, I was 19 when I first started, and I probably looked like I was 16, so I didn't really have the confidence to approach people. I mean, it was.
Wait, was it 16 or 19?
No, I was 19.
19.
But I looked like I was 16.
But
But it was more of
like
me being comfortable in my own skin too.
Right. I mean, that's super young. 19, like, damn, like I was not very comfortable in my own skin when I was 19, I feel like either. So
Yeah.
I gotcha. So go into that more. Like you weren't comfortable with your skin when you were 19, and then people were telling you no for listing their house.
Oh, I was just helping buyers doing
Right.
open houses.
Okay.
The fear of rejection.
Right.
But honestly, it came to a point where, I'd probably never run into these people again. So it came to a point where I'm like, screw it. Let's hound these people like a dog if they're going to use me or not. I'd rather them tell me to screw off versus, tell me stop calling them.
Yeah.
At least I got a call back.
So you were cold calling them?
No, these are people I would personally meet up at from open houses. I think, in the beginning, I did open house every single weekend, Saturday and Sunday week.
Gotcha. Open houses because you were selling at somebody else's house.
Yeah, I was using.
And you were doing an open house, and then were you trying to get more clients in that open house, or what?
Trying to get buyers.
You're trying to get buyers.
Yeah.
Okay. This is also because I'm not like an agent in the agent world. Don't just buyers kind of come from the MLS? Or like, how do you convince?
They don't come that easy.
Really? This is like, see, I have no idea. I'm not a realtor.
Yeah, so buyers come from just like your sphere of influence. Open house is a big one. I used to do a lot of marketing on Zillow, Google, and then Yelp.
Damn, so you don't, okay, that's interesting in the sense that that's definitely like more than what I thought a realtor did. Like I literally thought they basically just put it on the MLS and then they get a ton of offers just from that.
Well, yeah, that's separate, but you got to get the listing first.
Right. You're talking about getting the listing.
Getting the buyers.
Becoming a buyer's agent?
Buyer's agent.
Okay, gotcha. I was getting confused. I thought you were the one running the open house as for like the seller.
Yeah, but I would at then I was just getting started. So that's the quickest way to ask other agents if I could do open house for their listing.
Oh, gotcha. So you were doing open houses for a different listing agent. So the listing agent is like, hey, I don't need to do anything. This young kid can run this open house and then he can meet people and possibly get his own listings. That was the idea?
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So how did that conversation go? Like, how would you do that conversation to any young agents who are watching this, even though this is mainly investors?
Yeah, I would sit back and because during open house, you get a lot of different people coming in. You got neighbors that come in, and usually I would tell a neighbor, it would be like older person. They'd be wearing their tennis shoes, and they'd probably just be walking through the neighborhood. And then just be like, oh, open house popping. Let me see if there's a sandwich or something. Or it could be another form of neighbor where they're thinking about selling their house and they go into that open house because that house is in their neighborhood and it's comparable in size and probably condition as theirs. So they probably browse comparable to theirs. So yeah, you got neighbors, you got buyers, and I would scout buyers real quick. Usually a buyer would be like a younger couple with their baby, you have to be really serious to come to the open house and have your baby with you, even your parents with you too.
Yeah, that means you're looking to buy a house.
You're looking to buy, and those would be the people I'd sit back.
But they're not represented already?
Some of them are, but when you're in a competitive market like we are in California, it's been competitive my whole career throughout this entire 12 years. I've never seen a correction in my work in lifetime being a realtor, but when I was younger, I noticed a huge correction. But so back to working with buyers at the open house right now, buyers get so savvy that, they kind of lose hope in some of their agents they're working with. And keep in mind, if you're a buyer and let's say a lot of these buyers come from like San Francisco, Silicon Valley, and they buy in Hayward. This is my marketplace. They buy in Hayward. 9 times out of 10, they're working with someone in San Francisco,
right?
And then come to my open house in Hayward, and I'd be like, "Why the heck are you working with a San Francisco realtor for buying in Hayward?" Personally, if you're buying in San Francisco and I'm helping you, I have no idea what the house is worth. I don't know the difference between each neighborhood. I don't know where the school district ends and it begins, And I guarantee your realtor in San Francisco doesn't know the Hayward marketplace like I do.
That's so interesting. That's so interesting. So for people to know who aren't from California and the Bay Area is huge. Like the Bay Area is like this whole area around the Bay. And he's talking about the East Bay right now, Hayward, which is like kind of the East Bay. And then there's the actual city of San Francisco. And it is interesting. I mean, yeah, there are definitely parts of the Bay Area. I don't know where the school districts end or like where the cities exactly end. So that's super interesting to think about, even if like that's like what like San Francisco to Hayward, what is that, like a 30-minute drive? Like it's not like a
with
crazy,
no traffic.
Yeah, with like with no traffic, like a 30-minute, maybe with traffic 45-minute drive. So it's not like crazy. It's the same metropolitan area, but that is crazy in the sense that like it's all about your network when you're selling or buying houses with realtors. That's cool. I like that.
We got to a point where I pick up a ton of buyers.
Yeah.
Ton of buyers and just put them in our listings.
Nice.
So
I like that. That's cool. So the fear part of that was you just were afraid to talk to them?
I was afraid of rejection, afraid to talk with them. And then, yeah, I mean, it was getting more comfortable in knowing your product. Like when I first got into it, I had no idea about real estate.
Right.
And if I didn't know, how the heck am I supposed to explain the process to a buyer and then get them to trust me? Like if you don't know the process, then it was like writing on the wall that this guy had no idea what he's doing. And why the heck am I going to pick him to represent me to buy one of my most expensive things I'll probably buy in my lifetime?
Right. No, it makes sense. I get that. And then so if you could go back to that 19-year-old kid now, what are 3 things you would tell him or advise him to do?
Keep going. That'd be the first. Or don't give up.
Right.
I mean, that'd be the biggest thing. Don't give up. Learn your craft. Know your marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
And be able to present yourself as someone that people look for guidance when it comes to real estate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you get guidance from so many people out there, but just being an expert in your marketplace and knowing the ins and outs of real estate on every single transaction would separate you from most people. I think it's the experience involved that would either make you successful, and you got to educate yourself for sure.
How do you get that if you've never done a deal before?
By experience. I mean, I've been fortunate to work in a mom and pop brokerage
mm-hmm.
where I have a lot of good people in my ring that have been in the business for years.
Mm-hmm.
So get yourself a mentor. I mean, whether it's you want to be a real estate broker or a real estate investor.
Right.
Yeah, my boss is top real estate broker in the area. There's a lot of good real estate brokers in the area, but he's one of the top ones. And also he actually invests. So It kind of worked out pretty well.
Yeah, that your mentor was both an insanely good broker and an insanely good investor.
Yeah, and it was more a hands-on working experience for me.
Right.
So
no, I got you. That's dope. So okay, and then when you were making that transition from being an agent to an investor, were there any fears involved with that, like spending more money or like starting to become more entrepreneurial or anything like that?
No, there's no fears at all. I waited too long personally. I wish I would have started sooner. Right. There's no fears at all. If a good deal's right there, you better jump on it because someone else is going to buy it.
Yeah, it's true.
So, but it comes down to knowing your marketplace, knowing what a house is worth, if you could buy under market, and then how you could fix it if you're going to do the fix and flip or if you're going to rehab it to rent it out.
Right.
You got to know your angle, like, exit strategy. You got to have multiple exit strategies, but I like buying the deals where I know no matter what, it would go my way.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. What other exit strategies are you doing? I know what else are you doing other than flipping?
Doing rentals, buying rentals. I mean, I have a couple fourplexes.
But wait, Anthony, how do you cash flow in the Bay Area?
Yeah.
Which is a common thing, guys, because the Bay Area, we're dealing with $1 million houses. So
yeah, I mean, you can cash flow. I mean, my deals, everyone says you can't buy rentals and cash flow in the Bay Area. in today's market. I mean, going back to 2009 and 10, you'd buy anything in the cash flow back then,
Right.
Because values were so low, but not many people could buy them back then. But believe it or not, I mean, I try to buy everything at 1% of what I could rent it for.
Mm-hmm.
Or let's say I buy a $1 million house, then I want to collect $10,000 a month in rent, which that's what I'm doing.
So how do you do that?
1% deals. You got to know your marketplace. You got to keep. I mean, I look every single day.
Just on the MLS?
I bought deals on MLS. Actually, every single multi-unit I bought was on the multiple listing service, but they were kind of weird how they rolled out in my favor.
Yeah.
Like two of them technically didn't go on the multiple listing, but I bought them from another agent.
Right.
It was they're all weird, but I mean it worked out in my favor.
Wait, tell me one of them. Why were they weird? I'm curious.
So the first one I bought, and this was the first house I ever bought. It was 2019. I bought it. I got a pre-approval for $500,000, and it was an FHA loan because I didn't have much money down. I was able to show income to get the $500,000 loan, but with FHA it was difficult to buy things. So I was submitting offers left and right. It didn't work out. And fortunately, I was in contract on a duplex in Oakland, and for $500,000, which was a good deal. Duplex in Oakland, $500,000, smoking deal.
Right.
But while I was in contract, there was another deal that popped up. It was four separate units. Each unit was a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,000 square feet, in a pretty okay neighborhood of Oakland. It's like borderline East Oakland downtown. But the agent was from San Diego, and I was like looking at agents, getting deals from agents. Yeah,
those are the best. Like I have noticed that too, is when if like the seller's being represented by an agent that is not from here or not from. I didn't even think about the difference between like San Francisco and Hayward. I would assume they kind of know each other. But I've definitely noticed when they're like from SoCal, it's just like, oh, you literally have no idea what this thing is happening.
So yeah, the house is all jacked. The fourplex is all jacked up, almost 4,000 square feet with a view of San Francisco. And the agent was from San Diego, put it on the market on a Monday morning, said the only showing was on Tuesday. The next day, from 2:30 to 3:30, and I'm like, I'm canceling what I got going. I'm going to this open house
because you just knew that's a terrible idea. Like it's just gonna work out really well.
I called the guy that night. I'm like, look, my name's Anthony. I want to buy this place, and he's like, you better come. The place is all jacked up. It was listed for $499. It was probably worth $1 million. And I was like, damn, this is a good deal.
Right.
He's like, you got to check out the tenant situation. The place is dilapidated. Owners lives out of the area, and he's not in the best of health. He hasn't even maintained the building in years. So I go to the open house, and it was only for this hour. The agent flew in from San Francisco or from San Diego to Oakland for an hour just for this.
Damn.
And I go there, and there's like 40 people swarming this place.
Damn.
And I'm like, dang, on a Tuesday, this is crazy. So keep in mind, I only have this little FHA pre-approval loan.
Right.
And I meet them. Everybody's in there. There's people that walk in and out. I mean, it was full of crackheads. It was full of like dogs.
There's 40 people walking through it too. That's so funny.
The places. I mean, there was crazy people living in the place when I got it. But yeah, there were people all over it. And then I called the guy, or I said, hey, what's up, Sammy? I'm going to call you in a little bit. So I called him back after the show, and I said, look, I'll buy the house, buy it as is. I'll take the tenants, no inspections. I'll pay for it cash. And I didn't have no cash. I probably had like 30 grand in my bank account. So I was like, I'll take it cash. And he's like, okay, well, write up the offer. I'm expecting like 7 offers, and we're going to do a deadline date on Saturday. And I'm like, no. I want to write the offer now, and I want you to present it like tomorrow. And he's like, well, I already set the deadline date. I was like, well, what the heck does the seller want? I'll give him what the seller wants. I'm a cash deal. I close in a week.
Right.
So he was like, well, what's your offer? And I was like, 550. He's like, maybe I'll try. You're gonna have to do better than that. So I sent him 575. That next morning, he calls me back and he said, hey, what up, Anthony? If you write at 600,000, then I'll get the offer accepted in 20 minutes. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, no way. The house is probably worth $1 million. So I'm like, all right.
But you got to close in a week.
Yeah, I was like, let's write it up, right? So write it up, got it accepted. I'm like, holy crap, I got to put $20,000 in escrow tomorrow, and then I got to come up with $480,000 within a week. So I'm like, all right.
$580,000.
Yeah, $580,000. So I'm like, all right, whatever. It's a good deal.
Right.
I could find the money.
Yeah.
So around this time, I'm really looking into investing. Like, I need to figure out how I'm going to stop trading my time for money.
Right.
I started listening to Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right?
Right, classic.
Yeah, so I was like, I don't want to be old and still doing open houses and still show buyers.
Right.
And service people and being an agent is so competitive. And I just don't want to spend all that time.
Mm-hmm.
And by then I want to have like kids and grandkids and stuff. So I don't want to be like working. Well, I want to spend time like
right
with
when
family.
You want to be spending time with your family.
So I'm like, all right, so let's start looking at investing, and that's what brought me to getting this fourplex. So got it under contract, and then from there I was like, damn, so how am I supposed to figure this out?
Yeah, how do you find the money?
Yeah, called a couple hard money lenders, and then I never approached my boss about investing, but I knew he owned a lot of property.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and then I had my first flip under contract that next day too. And so I approached him. I was like, dang, and that was a $500,000 deal. So I'm like, I got to come up with $1.1 million within the next week. So I approached my boss. I'm like, yo, hey, this is what I got. I got this flip in San Lorenzo that we can make $200,000 off of, but I need the money. And he's like, all right, done deal. And I was like, whoa, that was hella easy. I funded it.
It's a pretty lit, friend.
We'll split the Well, you do everything, run it, and we'll split the profits. I'm like, what? So I don't have to put none of my money and I can get half of the profits?
Hey, that's pretty dope.
So yeah, and then I was like, dang, we can make $200,000. So you're saying I'll get 100? He's like, yeah, you brought me the deal and you manage it. And I'm like, all right, deal. And I'm like, all right, so we got this fourplex. And I was like, I got another property. And he's looks on his thing and his computer. He's already on it by looking at the other one that he agreed that we'll partnership on. And he's looking at the one on in Oakland, and he's like, "You got there for $600,000? It's 12 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, 4,000 square feet.
Pretty damn good.
I got it for 120 a square foot." And
in the Bay Area, that's insane. That's absolutely.
I could probably sell it for 500 per square foot. Right now.
Probably.
So he's like, those are all 3 ones. And he's like, when do you need your money by? And I was like,
a week.
Yeah, I need this in a week. So I went to looked at it. And it's a newer building for being in Oakland, 1963 built. So and then someone upgraded the plumbing. They did the electrical, all copper plumbing, all new electrical, big sub panels.
Damn. So it was already upgraded a bit?
It was big, but in the past 7 years, the tenants just tore it down.
Dang.
So we got that one. We're partners on that one. I mean, we're in it for about 8 with the repairs. We refinanced, got all our money back.
So there were tenants in there, though, weren't there?
There were tenants in there.
How'd you get the tenants out? This is a huge issue in the Bay Area. Like, getting tenants out is impossible.
Impossible. I mean, with this whole Corona thing.
Wasn't that pre-Corona?
It was pre-Corona. So there was one. So I went there. I got estoppels. There was someone that's on drugs in there. There's a drug dealer that's probably selling him drugs next door. There's one lady and 12 of her family members that live in one of them next door.
12? Wait, in a 3-1? There were 12 people living in a 3-1?
There's 4 families living in it.
Jesus.
And then we had parking issues. So one person didn't pay immediately. I got them evicted. Boom, within 60 days. Couldn't believe it.
How?
In Oakland before pre-COVID.
Damn.
I hired an attorney, gave her all the notices. Boom. And then they moved out before even the cops came, and I did the cash for keys.
Nice.
And Yeah, I have like
That's insane. That's insanely good for an eviction.
way before.
We have to talk about evictions just in general.
There's there's still no eviction in Oakland County. Even in Oakland, there's no evictions
Really?
right now. And then one of them, I won in court, and this is before COVID hit. It was November 2019. I won in court, and then it took like 2 months for the sheriff to come out. And then by the time the sheriff came out, Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, he put a state of emergency and no eviction. I'm like, holy crap. So I had one guy that didn't pay me for 18 months.
Jesus.
He's out. The place is all remodeled, and I have someone paying double what he paid. But the only reason we got him out is because he was stealing cars and he ended up going to prison.
Right. That's the only way you got him out, was because he was a criminal.
Yeah, he went to jail, and then I was able to get a notice of abandonment from there.
Dang.
And then I turned the laundry room into one unit that's now getting $1,800.
Man.
So this building's getting $8,800 a month right now.
Wow. And you paid $600,000?
$600,
and then
I put $200 into
so $800,000. That's still pretty dang good. That's a 1% rule in the Bay Area. Mm-hmm. Man, that's pretty awesome. That's a pretty cool story. I like that. So something I was kind of curious about that I wanted to get into, just because I know you're an agent too. Everybody knows how real estate investors can work with wholesalers. How do you feel agents and wholesalers can start working together better? Because I feel like a lot of times there's a lot of antagonism between the two, and I think that's misplaced.
There is. Well, I'll be honest. Being an agent, I hated wholesalers at the beginning.
Yeah,
and the reason why I hated wholesalers is because they do waste a lot of our time.
Right.
The thing is, anybody could be a wholesaler, and I'll tell you right now, 99% of the wholesalers completely suck balls.
Yeah, that's true.
So they don't know what they're doing, and being an agent, and you're getting paid by, getting a commission check.
Right.
And you got to see how valuable your trade. You got to trade off your time versus your income.
Right.
And then you're really trusting people to be honest with you. And the whole thing with wholesalers, most of them are dishonest from the beginning.
Right.
They say that they're the direct buyer, which they're really not. I mean, if they're upfront about it, then I don't know if that would even work with most agents. But it is a tough situation, because I know the agent side and I know the wholesaler side, but to be honest, a lot of wholesalers jump on way too early without even knowing what the hell they're doing.
Right. So basically just make sure you know your numbers if you're going to be able to do that.
Know your numbers and know actually how to talk and understand the process.
Well, how about this? How about this? Because this is how I feel when working with agents with myself. I always put an inspection period, right? If I cancel within that inspection period, I put in EMD, I haven't really gone back on my word whatsoever. Yeah. I followed the contract completely. I mean, in the end, it's basically the same thing if I was a fix and flipper, but it just didn't work out for me. How do you, have you ever, I'm just curious from better question. What has your experiences been with wholesalers, and what have they done that have especially pissed you off or made you mad?
Wasting my time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest thing is, agents do not like their time being wasted. Mm-hmm. Especially when they're getting, no left and right, because that's, part of being in business is
right.
You get 1,000 no's before you get one yes. And, them being misled.
Right.
They find out later that you've been lying to them the whole time. And it's like, screw this guy.
Right.
So.
But tell me of a specific time, what happened? I'm kind of curious. Was it did they follow the contract, or did they not follow the contract at all?
They followed the contract. They were trying to get some of my listings. Like, before I started flipping, I would get some massive fixers that I should have bought on my own. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't there yet mentally, and I wasn't visually seeing it for me to actually fix it and make a profit. Mm-hmm. I was just looking for that quick commission check. But when I would find those deals, wholesalers would call me, and automatically when I first meet, I always set the appointment, and then we look at the house, and when I meet them within 10 minutes, I could tell if this person is either legitimate or if they're just there's something weird going on. And that's how it was when meeting these wholesalers. It was weird. okay, this guy says he's a cash buyer. This guy pulled up in a Toyota Camry from 1996, and he talks hella ghetto.
Right.
And I'm like, there's no way this guy's buying it. What's up with this guy? He went to like a Dan Merrill convention, and you know, all of a sudden he's just this cash buyer.
Right.
I'm like, who hired you?
Right.
So I mean, it's kind of red flags that I noticed being an agent.
But do you ever have any positive experiences? Like, do you have any where it's like, oh, he assigned it and it worked out?
Oh yeah, I mean, when I knew about the thing is, a lot of agents aren't informed of what actually wholesalers do.
Yeah.
Too, but once I started getting on the flipping side, and honestly, I thought wholesaling. I had an investor that I would help find houses for,
right.
And this has kind of been one of my mentors too, because he would like guide me and be like, "Oh yeah, that's a hella good deal. I wish I would have found that deal."
Right.
But years ago, he's like, "Yeah, I bought this house through a wholesaler," and I thought when I heard he said wholesale, I thought he bought like 10 houses at once.
Right, like a wholesale deal.
Yeah, I was like, damn,
I got it.
This guy has to be super rich if he's buying like 10, 12 houses at once.
I gotcha.
So I didn't have no idea. Then I started becoming an investor, started looking for deals. And then that's when I realized that, whoa, these wholesalers are just like normal people that get deals under contract and they just flip the contract to someone else. And
right.
Like, damn, all right. Well, if they make a chunk and it works out for me, then I don't care.
Right. I gotcha. So yeah, but like, yeah, so it just kind of depends on the person, basically. Like if they're acting ethically and following contracts, and then B, if they know their numbers and know they can actually sell it, basically, right? Because I feel like an agent, at least the agents I've worked with, they could care less as long as they get their commission check.
Some of them, I mean, for the most part, if they're really looking after interest of their sellers, and they would want to make sure that you are actually a bona fide buyer. But yeah, I mean, some of them it's an incentive if they're going to double into too.
Yeah.
So
it just depends. I mean, as long as I feel like it's just an interesting conversation because I don't talk to agents that much about it. I don't really ask their opinion of wholesalers, how I do it or how I feel ethically good is like I put in an assignment clause. So it's pretty obvious, like, look, I can wholesale this. Like I literally put it in the contract. And so like if they are okay with it still, then I think that's okay. But it's an interesting conversation exactly how to do it right and how to do it well.
I mean, that's another thing with a real estate agents. You get your real estate license pretty easy. I mean, I passed the test.
Yeah, it's not a hard test.
My second time, but yeah,
it's not a hard test.
But I mean, you get people that have no idea what they're doing, and they're representing someone to sell their house, and that's where you could take advantage of an agent that has no idea what they're doing, has no idea what the value is. And if you get that thing under contract, then I mean, it
is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I found some like good deals through agents.
Yeah, bro.
That had no idea
most of my deals now are through agents.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed that, but
I did notice that.
Yeah. So they're pretty good. But okay, so this was something I wanted to talk about because this is a mindset thing that you touched on for a second. Was you were saying in your agent career there would be these deals that were like good potential fix and flips, but you never wanted to take them on just because you were in like that mindset of an agent. Was it because you never even thought of it, or was it like you were afraid of the idea of going after them, or what prevented you from buying them back then?
I was too mostly concentrated on being a real estate agent.
Right. It just wasn't in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, I was too closed-minded.
Right.
On helping, looking for clients, looking for buyers, looking for sellers, looking to service them.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, you could be very profitable being a real estate agent, especially in the Bay Area. But it came down to like, how much time am I going to put into this? And I'm going to keep exchanging my time for money.
Right.
When you could buy a place and then throw your crew on it, and you could still sell houses on the side. And if you trust your crew, and it takes time to trust your crew and build up those systems, and they know the expectations of the quality of work that you expect, then you could pull back and either look for more deals or help more buyers or sellers. So I mean, being a real estate agent at the beginning, or even still, it consumes a lot of your time. So you got to look
Right.
at that balance of, if you're going to be a realtor, if you're going to be a wholesaler, can you do both? I mean, it is hard doing both too.
Yeah.
Because I like the investing side because I find a deal, sit back, my crew runs it, and I probably work half the hours I am being a realtor I work half the hours being an investor, make 4 times the money than when I was a realtor.
Do you ever do any realtor stuff anymore? Is it just investing?
Kind of. Right now I only help my, I don't market for business at all.
Right.
I work from referrals. I've met a ton of really good clients, and then I just help my friends and my family.
And then the rest is just real estate investing.
The rest is constantly real estate
Nice.
investing.
I mean, it's such a I feel like it's the best game ever, real estate investing.
It's easier that way. I show up comfortable. People aren't judging me.
Right.
They know me personally. It's huge. And I'm just hanging out with my friends, with my family, and helping them find a house, or helping them sell a house, or maybe helping them buy their first multi-unit.
Right.
So
100%. Yeah, no, I definitely get it. So I'm just curious, were there any other, we talked about the fear of failure. That was at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Can you think of anything else that was holding you back from real estate investing or anything like that? When you were here's probably a better way of saying it. I'm actually curious about this. What flipped the switch? What was the moment where you're like, wait a minute, why am I not buying this?
What flipped the switch was, I had a house I was selling. I was always looking for business, and
mm-hmm.
You can't really pick and choose sometimes, especially when you got bills coming around the next few months. So you got to take some deals sometimes where you're like, why the heck did I ever take this deal? Because the amount of money, the amount of time you put into it is not even worth your
the ROI.
Yeah, what you're getting back. And there was one deal that I spent 4 months on remodeling. I only made probably $5,000 on it. And I took all the risk. And then I sold it, and the people were ungrateful, and they weren't even happy at the end of the day.
Oh, no.
I got them way more than what they expected. And I'm like, man, that sucked. And yeah, they were ungrateful. I didn't even get a thank you. I didn't even,
Damn.
And then it was like a slap in the face, and I wasn't happy being a real estate agent.
Right.
Because it wasn't rewarding, and people look at realtors, and it's just one step above, a car salesman.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think realtors are scammers, but it's a tough business being in real estate, no matter
which one you are. It's kind of tough. Everybody, real estate investors sometimes are looked at as scammers. I feel like certain realtors are looked at as scammers. It's all about trust and just acting ethically. Because at least the one thing I've noticed is that I love this business because there's literally no barriers to entry. But the issue is, because there's no barriers to entry, literally anyone can get in, no matter what type of human being they are. So so a lot of people get a bad taste in their mouth from it. I feel like from certain people. But sorry, keep going. So you got the slap in the face.
No, it came to a point where I was like, screw that. That's insane. And I didn't want to be in real estate. I was like, this freaking sucks. I've been doing this for 10 years.
Garbage.
10 years, and my money goes just as fast as it comes in.
Right.
Because you're spending money on marketing, you're spending money on car, you're spending money on, and then you're spending huge money on taxes.
Right.
So you make like $150,000-$200,000. Let's say you make 200. Half of that 200 is going to go to taxes.
Right.
And then you're going to spend another of that 30 into marketing and costs. And it says you make 200 on paper, but really you walk away with $70,000 for that year after you spent like 60 hours a week, day in, day out. You're like, screw this. Most realtors out there are struggling, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
It's like top 0.003% that is actually doing business, and those people are getting 95% of the business.
That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's one of the things that I don't know, because I always try to think of like the synergies between real estate investors um, and agents and wholesalers too. I consider wholesaling just the starting point for real estate investing. Like if you just have like nothing else but time, that's the best way to do it. Um, and so even I always want to like try to see how or try to show people like how wholesalers can add a lot of value to agents. And I feel like those are the types of agents we add the most value to if we know what we're doing with the property. Because if you're a good wholesaler, like you know your market. It's the thing that you said. Like you know your market, you know how much something can sell for, and then you have a ton of buyers, or at least know somebody who has a ton of buyers who can then get it sold so that everybody is happy.
Yeah.
That's like the ideal situation, and then that's how at least I've grown my business now. Is I have become the guy for certain agents that is like, oh, Jonah knows how to deal with any of these problems, whether it's like, let's say squatters or, tax liens, how to negotiate them, pre-foreclosures, whatever it might be. To them, I'm the guy who like knows how to deal with that. And I feel like that's the true value of a wholesaler, because you're somewhat valuable to somebody if you just happen to get it at a good price. But though I feel like the wholesalers are the most useful when they actually know how to do stuff like that, and the agent doesn't. That's how I view it. I don't know if you probably like have gone to knowing how to deal with those yourself anyways, because you're a fix and flipper.
Yeah.
Fun fact on this house that we're in right now, he he got the squatters out that were in here. I didn't even know about this. What did you say? Something like, I don't know, but like the point was like he was able to get the squatters out because he knew even more than me back then when I was wholesaling this house.
Yeah,
I figured out
easy.
that I
Try to
figured
get
out the
squatters
tax
out of
liens.
Oakland first.
Yeah, dude.
So,
I got the tax liens off of this one though. I figured that one out. We were in 6-month escrow on the house that we're in right now. That was an insane one. That was a escrow. Okay, so we're almost done, but I'm gonna leave it with this. So what's your advice to a young real estate investor, a young realtor? I kind of got into it with the 3 things you'd say to your 19-year-old self, but especially with your knowledge now, like I'm having struggle talking to people. I don't know if I can do this. Like, what do you tell to those types of people? What do you think is the best advice to give them?
First thing is know your marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a wholesaler, especially for a wholesaler, I mean, what I see most by wholesalers is they look for any deal underneath the sun and they spread out way too far.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say start small, know the marketplace small, and be the expert in that marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you see a deal pop up, that's a deal, freaking jump on it.
Right.
Because someone else is gonna. There's so much competition out there
Mm-hmm.
that someone else is gonna grab it if
Right.
you even take a second to even think about it. Just lock it under contract. Don't overthink things. That's my second thing. Don't overthink it and just do it. What I've learned is it's always better just to go after it and then figure it out as you're going versus just overthinking it, never do nothing. And like, oh, I should have did it. Then you live with that doubt the rest of your life.
Right.
That's what I always hate is living with doubt. Like, oh, I should have did this and this didn't happen. So, don't overthink it. That's the biggest thing. And be the expert, know the values, know what you could buy them for, know what you could sell them for, wholesale them for. And third one is, don't give up, because what I've seen is most people, they think it's going to happen overnight, which, I mean, if you're fortunate and you get it quick, then it could happen overnight.
Just won't though. You'll get one deal maybe overnight, but you're not going to get like consistent deals.
Exactly.
Overnight.
And I think if you stick with it for 3 or 4 years consistently and you do it full time, it's tough for people to drop and, working, but you have to do real estate full time. You can't do it part time. There's no way you can do it part time. There's no way you can educate yourself and actually look for business and get deals part time. There's no freaking way.
Yeah, it's a lot harder. It's like very, 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 very hard.
Yeah.
But cool. All right, guys, I'm gonna end it there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is the 5th episode. I hope you guys got a lot out of it, how to work with agents, what buyers are looking for, the advice they want wholesalers to know. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye, y'all.
Have a good one.